Good morning, everybody. Hope your evening went well. It was delightful here in Wichita. Another day in the 80s, 2 more days forecast as such, then back to seasonal temperatures in the low 70s. And there is some moisture in the forecast. We really need moisture. To help preserve our cattle industry, as opposed to importing what they need from all over. So, not much news this morning. Domestically, the big news overnight was in Hong Kong. The protesters are kind of folding their camp. Tear gas and pepper spray is taking its toll. Also, the government is outlasting the protesters. They have their own lives to lead. The government is the government, and they have people there 24/7 to protect the government's interests. That rallied the Chinese markets out of Japan. The head of the Liberal Democrat Party said perhaps it's time to change the Bank of Japan's and the government of Japan's Abenomics policy of a weak yen to spur exports, to spur the Japanese economy. That always works for a quarter or two as people rush in and buy whatever it is that you manufacture on the cheap. But after a couple of quarters, the resupply of those manufacturers' raw materials and then just general living, inflation kicks in and it takes it away. Europe got hit pretty hard. Great Britain's industrial production numbers missed. Germany's missed by a bunch. Industrial production was off 4%. So right now the European financial press says that Germany is officially in a recession, and that takes the EU into a triple-dip recession since 2009. And the problem that we're even facing here in the United States now is that this stranglehold, this foot on everybody's chest industrially through tax policy, through over-regulation, just really limits growth. And all of the nations around the world need growth to solve this borrowing to spend mess that they've created. Without growth, nothing works, and we don't have growth these days. And the United States has been taken from the high 2s, low 3s to now the low 2s on growth. So our industrial policy and our tax policy is starting to negatively impact our economy too. So like everybody in the world, most of us would just like the government to get out of the way. That is the solution, but of course the government, the more power they gain and garner and get, the less inclined they are to do so. Ebola is now on the European continent with a nurse in Spain who was treating a Franciscan priest who came back from Sierra Leone, now has Ebola. This Ebola deal, I mean, think about it. The West can't even really handle a major outbreak of Ebola, but think about what happens if Ebola gets to Pakistan or India or China or spreads in the continent of Africa. I mean, it's just, this is dangerous stuff. It is not to be taken lightly. So what do we have today? We have no news. We've got JOLTS, which is at 4.71. Sometimes it's counted as a surrogate for job growth, job demand. Doubt if it will be today, and we've got the 3-year auction. So the bias for the 3-year auction is up. Our bias is to the high side. We left yesterday's market wanting to buy 9s to 13s. We'll leave that intact this morning. We may have to move it up to 13 to 17s, depending on what goes on in the E-mini. We can sell failure to take out 19 to 23, which is where we were last night. 20 to 24 is resistance, then 28 to the buck would be our sell to. 27 to 31 would be sell to. 1 to 5 will be buy 1, but what I buy 2, I'm thinking that we may have to move our buy up to 17s or better, just Just depends on where this first break goes. So last night we gave you great levels to participate from the long side and short side in the 10-year, and hopefully some of you took advantage of it. We know what we're talking about, especially when it comes to the note. And the reason the note is our contract that we like to learn, where we suggest you learn our methodology, is that it's got the lowest tuition costs. It honors support and resistance literally to the tick. It trades off the fundamental news. Now, it's not a go-with market. It requires you to buy the weakness and to sell into strength. And most people want to buy and see the market take off, or sell and see the market take off. It doesn't work that way in the financials. So it's more of a blue-collar type contract, a steady Eddie, you work the grind type contract, as opposed to a contract that will generate euphoria, both good and bad euphoria, when you put it on, as the go-with contracts do. Same situation in the 30-year. We'll make it 19 to 23. 27 to 31. Best resistance is at 140. Hard to get around that. On the buy side, might go a little bit lower, might get stops below the overnight session low, but a 9 to 13 works. And the basis or reasoning behind this is the 3-year auction today. It's rarely a bad one. If the stock market starts to really sell and take off to the downside, then we're going to have to pay up to get off along. If the stock market kind of holds, it's close to support this morning, then our numbers should work just fine. Okay, gold got sold last night. Once again, the gold pundit market is all over the board. Some saying overvalued, some saying undervalued. Premium for gold and silver coins is wide. That means the retail account is still buying. We left yesterday's market wanting to sell 1210 plus or minus. You had a shot right in here to get off that trade. Like we always say, we don't like to have a go-home short on the U.S. close, but we love to get short crude and gold on London, and you had the high set in the end period, the second half hour of trading in London. So a good trade for us. We had hoped to buy the 3 to 5 area. That's where we are right now. Because it's a B, we're going to take it down 12 to 1202 on the buy one side this morning. Give it a little bit more room. And then our 95, 97 for buy two. Most of the financial press that you read on gold is not supportive, and it's not supportive because of the lack of large institutional participation outside of central banks that want to own the bullion. Okay, the euro, this is the gift that just keeps on giving. I hope some of you were able to take advantage of the euro last night. We wanted to be short the euro. Time we can rally at 50, 75 points. We want to get short in London. Here's the London high right here. We left yesterday's market with a 50 to 60 sell recommendation, and then the number 2 recommendation was against 29. So you were briefly at 60 when London opened, and 60 held. This was our sell zone right here. Produced a really, really, really good trade for you. Top of values 55, modes at 35. We're currently at 14. So 30 to 40 will be our first sell, and 50 to 60 will be our second sell. On the buy side, 126 has bounced the market, so I think we're going a little bit lower, so maybe stops below the overnight session, so 25.90 to 126 even. Buy one. As you know, the buys that I like in this particular contract are covering shorts. Then 50 to 60 will be buy two. So the sell's somewhat aggressive, but it reflects what went on overnight. The Europe has entered its third recession. So that means they'll be financing debt with more borrowing because there will be tax shortfalls. It's just, and these governments, they will not go quietly into the night. These people like the power, they like the perks, they like the unaccountability, never held to task. They like to retire early with pensions at least twice of what they can get in the private sector, especially based on the amount of work and productivity they've demonstrated through their lives. There's good people that work for the government, don't get me wrong, but this regulatory burden and the tax burden, ultimately, it kills the goose that lays the golden egg, even for government workers. Okay, crude ran into selling yesterday. We left the market wanting to sell 50 to 75. We said it was aggressive. We said we like to get short in London. Once again, there's your London high. ISIS is pressing a Kurdish city on the Turkish border, trying to take it down. It's absolutely amazing that our air power, given the allies, these people are fighting to the death over there. There's stories coming out about women blowing themselves up because they don't want to be captured by ISIL. I mean, it's kind of like in the Pacific campaign against the Japanese. A lot of guys chose to go to their death rather than be captured by the Japanese. For the same reasons, you're going to be tortured and then killed. So you might as well take as many with them as you could. And it's hard to think in those kind of terms, but you're not given a lot of choice in these situations. And women are fighting. Women have taken up arms against these people. So the Kurds are serious about maintaining their country. And I can't, from what I can read, the amount of sorties is limited. Most of them are at night. And why in the hell would you be attacking anybody that doesn't have anti-aircraft batteries at night? I mean, what's the purpose? You want to catch these people out on the roads when they're running, when they're refilling their pipeline, when they're moving troops. From an air interdiction or air war standpoint, and I do know air power, doesn't make sense. You have to ask, who in the hell's behind this? And I think the powers that be have said, we're going to do the minimum possible. No prisoners taken, nobody shot down. The press will support that we're out there doing all we can via the air power and let the chips fall where they may. Not a good deal for those on the ground. Not a good deal for us down the road. I mean, we're empowering ISIS. That will come back and bite us. Okay, we have several forces operating in the E-mini today. Number one will be the support by the Fed, and we'll see that in the 50-lot player buying every downtick. We've got a P in the overnight session. We've got volume up at 58. We have an overnight session high of 55. The news out of Europe's not good. The single print down here at 44 held. So our first buy is in this 45 area, plus or minus. And then our second buy is down here in our 40, 42. That's where support is. No news to shake things up. It's going to be the spillover of the selling from Europe. 55, 57 will be sell 1, and then 60, 59 to 61 will be sell 2. With no news to drive the trading and the potential for Fed intervention, our market could come back. But I think when you look at the news, if Europe's headed into recession, less earnings per share from our companies that sell to Europe. It's not good news for our stock market either. So Tom makes a good point that our entanglement with Saudi and their support for the Sunni, which ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them, are, could be hindering our fight against them. But, I mean, if you want the saner heads to prevail in the Middle East, you really need to support the Kurds. And, of course, Iraq doesn't want that either. So I think the Kurds are between the rock and the hard place. And my guess is, if I had to make a bet, they will be disappointed in the response of the West to their plight. Rich will be on today at 11:30 Eastern for a Rich Talk. Rich talks are well worth listening to. They are always recorded. They're usually posted by the next day. Okay, that's all I have for right now. I'm going to go get everything posted, probably 20 minutes to run the traps, get everything done and in its right place. Right now, we're seeing a little pullback in the financials, not much, and a lot will be dependent upon which way the stock market goes today. Last night, I could not get YouTube to